Hey guys, welcome to the Silver Report Uncut. Now there's some very interesting things going on, but I wanted to begin here with a couple questions. Is the country in an economic expansion? Are we in a recession or a depression? And how could you really figure it out? How could you really be sure? Certainly not from all these puppet commanders literally attempting to change the technical recession definition that was tied to basic economics. Now these relics of the Austrian days, it doesn't gel with this whole new modern monetary theory, this endless printing. The Keynesian system, it survived by modifying variables we don't like. Now, once this rate hike truly makes it through the system, there will be significant shockwaves. There won't be much warning, and things will accelerate rapidly. Expect shocks to the credit markets. These are going to surprise many, and this Titanic has already hit the iceberg. Everyone's in denial. It's already going down. It's going to be interesting to see what causes Powell to finally pivot and change from his current trajectory. Don't be fooled and think that everything is going to be fine just because it isn't changed yet. There's no good reason to not believe in gold's future either. It's soon going to be the key globally. We're going to see a rush to buy gold unlike anything we've seen, and it's already begun for many of the central banks right now. Leverage with the miners will be off the charts. The strength in the dollar will not last. And that's when we're going to see gold explode and never come back again. It already repositioned itself to a new plateau. It was interesting because I saw a couple of videos I made a year ago, and I was trying to tell everybody that gold was going to go to $1,600 an ounce. And it seemed so far-fetched at the time. It seemed so ridiculously high at the time. And now we're complaining about what we're losing. It was clear that companies doing crypto lending, they were taking on enormous risks. And if you see the offers for 10-plus yields that have been going on during a time when the economy is melting down, as well as the bond yields are dropping, you're almost certainly looking at a Ponzi scheme. We saw this in Celsius and other firms. They've also blown up. And it seems like there's going to be more deleveraging to come. You still have Tether. It's failing to produce an actual audit. And everyone seems skeptical of it. And until we get more truth, and Michael Saylor is sweating in the hot seat, we may not have to hit the button. Who knows if Bitcoin is cheap? How does one even judge? Can you judge it on fundamentals? The importance of being objective and getting a rounded view of economics and politics, the integrity and good faith is more important than just being told what you want to hear. For the most part, people have this problem going on that they want to search out people who want to say exactly what they believe. We never challenge ourselves. We never step out of our echo chamber. And it's making us less and less prepared to deal with the world. Central banks are currently purchasing gold at a record pace. Almost nobody knows this. For the most part, a lot of the economists never mention this. No one mentions gold. You would think that the central banks beginning to purchase gold at the highest rate in history would be significant, especially because we see so much economic turmoil going on. It's almost likely the entire world is about to fall into some sort of savage Mad Max type situation. Now, the World Gold Council, they reported that central banks, they bought a historic high of 374.1 tons of gold this year. An unprecedented shift towards gold has been led by the financial authorities of the world in what appears to be a move away from the U.S. dollar. The World Gold Council reported that central banks bought a historic high of 374 tons. This move, it accounts for only 16% of total gold demand, but it offers an inside look into the minds of the central bankers. For the most part, they ignore gold, they don't talk about gold, but they're always not too far away. It was only 7 years ago that a survey of economists revealed significant disagreement with regard to the potential benefits of a gold standard. Do central bankers not agree with leading academic economists, or is it a different motive at play? The evolution of money, the history of money, it's featured coins made from precious metals, privately issued IOUs that could be redeemed for precious metals, and government-used IOUs that could similarly be redeemed for precious metals. But many have speculated that the cryptocurrencies are the next step in this evolution. But could it be gold that's actually looming over the horizon? All the central banks seem to think that gold is the place to turn right now because it is a time of crises. And while everybody wants to keep their head in the sand and pretend like this is not a problem, that it's not going to get serious, they're not going to see it. It was only relatively recently that fiat money came into use. For the most part, it was often collapsing almost immediately after being implemented. It wasn't able to be used. And this has been a huge experiment that has lasted a long, long time. But has it been a long time? You run the clock, that was only the 70s. And the currency has totally fallen apart. So many, they speculated that the next step was going to be the central bank digital currencies. That might be true. But the history of money is trended towards greater degrees of government control. And this new trend of gold accumulation raises many questions right now. What's going to be for the future? Is a gold standard feasible? In the Cato Journal, Lawrence White, he explores how the world might transition to a new gold standard, and he noted two possible paths. First, a parallel gold standard could be allowed to grow alongside the current fiat currency. Now, this was kind of a theory I suggested a long time ago about why Reagan had introduced the gold and silver coins into the public. The demand wasn't that high then, but he made a huge determination that he was going to move through and he was going to put these coins into circulation so that the people could have access to real money. And he was speaking this openly. And it was talking about gold and silver by real money, not just the Federal Reserve notes. Alternatively, there could be a transition date in which a currency is then defined as the same amount in gold. While network effects require a painful inflation to occur for fiat currencies to lose their incumbency, White explains that the second path offers an opportunity for a smooth transition. For the switch to be effective, or not cause inflation or deflation, the new parity will need to be based on the current price of gold. In one case, the Rus, and their currency is the ruble. The ruble currently trades at 100,826 rubles per ounce of gold. With the Rus and their money that supply around 9.339 billion rubles, the country would need to purchase 92,624,716 ounces of gold. The number looks menacing, but a quick conversion cleans it up for you with only 32,000 ounces in a ton. The number becomes 2,894 tons. Then the number reduces down to 2,894 tons. This is a maximum amount that would be required with a 100% reserve ratio, not the historical ratios observed under both the private and government banking. At a 20% reserve ratio, the requirement drops to only 578.9 tons. This is pretty high compared to what we're doing with modern banking. In terms of feasibility, that is less than 1% of the world's supply of gold. A golden hedge, rather than implementing a golden standard. It's also possible that these countries are looking to insulate themselves from the U.S. economy, a difficult prospect. For now, the dollar has been rising and holding strong, but overall, we see what's coming down the line. We see that there is the canary in the coal mine. It's already been singing. Trouble approaches, and it's not just economic trouble. It's also social trouble that is brewing up at the same exact time. You might think they're completely connected, but they're not. They're going to become more and more connected as the world goes on due to the fact that the need right now is great in the world. They're currently looking to insulate themselves from the U.S. economy, from the U.S. dollar. They want to protect themselves, and the only way to do that is to hold something else, to escape the U.S. dollar. It's sad when the world is looking around at the dollar with such disdain. Now, Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations in 1776, and one can get their investments out of a country with a few days' horse ride. So unlike the majority of tasks over time, it's become much, much more difficult to move your money, and the Rus president, Vlad Putin, he called for an increase in gold purchases as a part of a fiscal fortress policy. So he is directly coming out and saying that they need to buy more gold as a fortress, as a protection. The global economy is more integrated now than ever, and this integration hit center stage when this whole Great Recession rippled across the globe, and it showed just how connected our economies are. With the U.S. dollar on one side of the most trade and utilized as the base in the majority of currency exchanges, there's little escape from the U.S. economy or from the dollar. For this reason, China called for the IMF currency to replace the dollar as a global reserve currency. It is possible, due to the lack of traction this policy recommended has been received, and that they simply decided to enact safeguards by investing in the original global reserve currency, which is gold. The Rus and President Vlad Putin, he called for an increase in gold purchases as part of this fiscal fortress policy of high reserves and low external debt. Kind of sounds like common sense. Could gold be the signal we're looking for? One last consideration lies in the state of the modern international trade. Whether gold is being accumulated or as a currency or an asset, the movements, they've not gone unnoticed. With hostility growing in the U.S. and China with their trade, it's possible the purchases are being made for leverage. In game theory, opponents can make threats and promises, but this is mostly considered cheap talk. There's no cost to say it. There's no cost to receive it. So why not do it? It is for this reason that no player will change what their strategy is in response to this cheap talk. However, signaling is a different matter. A credible signal is costly. It separates the aces from the jokers. Accumulating gold is a costly, credible signal. In the case of U.S. and China in their trade, China could use gold holdings to dump the dollar. If so, the U.S. would incur a cost much higher than the revenue from tariffs levied on the Chinese businesses and American citizens. By accumulating these holdings, China signals that the coordination is a better long-term policy, and that the classical gold era featuring lower mean inflation, smaller price levels, uncertainty, global network benefits, and fiscal discipline, these benefits are undeniable and enough of a warrant to warrant the monetary authority's attention. This is not to say it's the only thing worth their attention right now, but the danger in leaving economic theory and entering practices that is an entire world full of complex dynamics to account for whether recent gold accumulation is merely a demonstration of political weight to leverage trade policy, or a hedge against the market turbulence, or a move towards a new gold standard, and maybe just to protect themselves from the traditional safe haven currencies. I thank you guys for stopping by and joining us. As always, stay free.